Hiya, it's Kathy Cassidy, and I've got something very slightly different for you before today's chapter. I have 5 lovely bookmarks for Love from Lexie, and they're double-sided, and on the other side it's the second book in the series, Sammy's Silver Lining. I've got 5 of these that I'm willing to send, to post to anybody who would really like one, with a little letter, you know, hoping that you're doing okay in the lockdown and everything. If you would like to win one of the bookmarks and a letter, you need to leave a comment either on my Facebook page or on the YouTube link, and then we can work out how to, you can, you know, message secretly your address so that your address is never public, but I can then post off your prize, and the first 5 requests that I see will win a letter and a bookmark. So yeah, I just thought that might be something nice. If you know somebody, if you know a young person, a new reader, an old reader, wherever you are, and that would cheer you up, I'm willing to post those. I think probably just within the UK, because I can't get to the post office to do special rates for Europe and Ireland and, you know, all around the world, alas. But if you're in the UK, then that's my offer. And here we go. In between the chapters, the message this time is really simple. Just wow, seriously, with Lexie's initial and a kiss. Because if you remember the last chapter, things were really hotting up, and Lexie and Marley had had their first kiss after their first date. And what's going to happen next? Chapter 19 is called A Long Lost Legend. So let's get on and see what happens. I hand my library song lyrics over to Marley as we sit on the steps of the old railway carriage later that night. You wrote me a song too, he checks, wide-eyed. That's amazing. No, I wrote it for the library, I tell him, but well, I wondered if you could do something with it, make it into something. He scans the words. I really did put my foot in it on Friday, didn't I, he says. Dylan and me, we're just not big into books and reading. Never got the habit, and books seem like a chore somehow, like work. That's because you only read for school, I point out. Libraries are all about reading what you want to read, for fun or for research. Books on musicians, maybe. Maybe, he says. I never thought of that. Anyway, I was out of order shooting my mouth off like that. I'll make some music for your song, Lexie. It'll be a challenge to work that way round. I'll work on your song too, I promise. Our song, whatever. Come on, he says with a grin, back to work. We'd abandoned all hope of a proper date to come straight here, and Marley fell in love with the place just as I knew he would. Already someone, Jake maybe, has made a start on packing up the vintage magazines and peeling old photos off the wall, but the magic still hangs in the air, so real you can almost touch it. Marley discovers a broken Dansette record player and a cupboard full of vinyl records from the 60s, lots of them signed. Have you seen this? He asks over and over. I mean, this is treasure. The Beatles, the Stones, the Kinks, David Bowie, Ked Wilder. All those amazing oldies must be worth a fortune. I pick up a Ked Wilder single, wiping a layer of dust from its sleeve to see more clearly the legendary 60s pop hero with his mop of black hair, skinny jeans and dodgy winkle picker shoes. He stayed here lots of times, according to Miss Winter. I try not to wonder which other long-gone performers have been right here in this room, writing songs or partying or just taking some time out. The magic still lingers somehow. We spend the rest of our date clearing up the main living space of personal stuff, boxing it up for Jake to take up to the house. With the valuables gone, we're left with worn-out rugs, peeling paint and faded couches and windows thick with dirt. It's a mess, Marley says, but it's a beautiful mess, right? It really is. The next week is crazy. Almost every spare moment is spent down at the old railway carriage. Most of the band get involved, though Romy can't stay late. She says her mum's not well, and Sammy doesn't show his face at all. Marley says that his uncle and aunt are strict and don't quite understand what all this is for. Sammy lives with his uncle and aunt, I ask. Marley stares at me. You don't know about Sammy? He asks. Seriously? He's from Syria, Lexie, a refugee. He lost his whole family on the journey over, but he got to come to Britain as an unaccompanied minor because he had relatives here. I thought everyone knew. Not me, I whisper. Oh, Marley, how awful. To lose your mum is bad. What must it feel like to lose your whole family? To pitch up alone in a strange country, thousands of miles from home. No wonder his eyes are dark with shadows. No wonder his flute playing makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. That's the moment when I know for certain that the Lost and Found is not just about music, but much, much more. And I'm grateful to Marley for railroading me into doing something way outside my comfort zone. How many of the others are grateful too? Awkward Romy for sure, shy, bespectacled George, ambitious, determined Sumia, beautiful Sasha with her eyes full of secrets. On Monday night, we clean, a whole squad of us with mops and buckets and dusters. Lee provides trumpet backing while the rest of us work, and it's strangely satisfying. On Tuesday, we wallpaper the railway carriage with sheet after sheet of old music, the pages overlapping to make a beautiful patchwork. The sheet music is from a box I rescued not long ago, and this is the perfect use for it. On Wednesday, we throw out the moth-eaten rugs and paint the old floorboards. Jake's stepdad, Sheddy, tells him he can take his pick of the leftover emulsion paint in one of the old workshops, so we carry the whole lot up to the train and begin to paint thick swirling stripes, pale golden yellow, tulip red and sky blue. What will Miss Winter think? Happy asks, anxious. This is probably not what she had in mind. She lived through the 60s, Bex reminds us. Psychedelia and all that crazy stuff. She won't bat an eyelid. Apparently, the Milford Gazette called round to interview her today, Jake comments, and she kept them on the topic of library closures the whole time. It should go in on Friday. Well, that's handy, Bex says. I'm taking the petitions to town on Saturday afternoon. I've printed out some official-looking ones and borrowed some clipboards from school. If the newspaper interview is good, we should get lots more people wanting to sign. Me and Lexie have been working on something else that might help the campaign, Marley says with a wink in my direction. It's almost ready. Can we get Sasha along tomorrow? A snare drum, a violin or two? There's a new song we need to try out. On Thursday, Happy, Bex, Jake and I carry on with the rainbow swirls while Marley plays us some guitar riffs and Sasha tries to fit the words to the music. Working together makes the song a genuinely joint effort, and what started out as my own private reaction to the library closures looks like it could be our next song. On Friday, the railway carriage is off limits while Jake's stepdad sorts out the electrics, checks that the tiny bathroom is working properly, and sands and varnishes the woodwork. We take the evening off, and it just happens to be the evening that Louisa Winter's interview appears in the Milford Gazette. It's not just one page, it's a full-colour centre spread. I open it up on the living room carpet, and Mary Shelley mooches over to take a look. National Treasure Louisa Winter condemns library carnage, the headline blares. There's a big colour picture of Louisa posing next to one of her paintings, artist palette in hand, her green eyes gazing at the camera. On the opposite page, there are older photos of Louisa in her modelling days, including one of her hand-in-hand with 60s pop legend Ked Wilder. I begin to read. Milford's very own Louisa Winter, internationally acclaimed artist, 60s wild child and modelling sensation, has spoken out against the imminent closure of 5 local libraries. Speaking from her Milford studio, Louisa likened the closures to throwing our children's futures away and making a bonfire of all we have learned about culture, community, education and creativity. My mobile buzzes into life with an incoming call from Jake. Have you seen it? He demands, breathless. In the paper, Louisa's interview. I'm reading it now, I say. It's good. She says she's getting all her famous friends to write letters to the council, and I bet loads of local people will write their own too. Have you got to the bit about the festival? Jake asks. Keep reading, Lexie. Louisa says we're having a big festival in the park in June to protest about the cuts and closures. Everyone is invited along to support the libraries, and local bands are invited to perform. That could be us, I exclaim. June's a bit too soon, really, but we're doing it, Jake interrupts. We have to because Louisa's told the paper we're playing. He reads aloud. Newly formed local teen band The Lost and Found will play support for 60s pop legend Ked Wilder, who often stayed in Milford at the height of his fame and was a regular at Bridge Street Library. The festival will be Wilder's first public performance in more than a decade and is expected to draw a crowd of thousands. You're kidding, I say, and then I find it in the newspaper spread before me and my eyes widen. Whoa, you're not kidding, Jake, this is awesome and terrifying. What are we going to do? I'll ring the others, he tells me. You tell Bex and Marley. I click to end the call. Mary Shelley stalks across the newspaper and stops to look at me, inscrutable, her beaky little face tipped to one side. I think she's trying to be encouraging. It's difficult when your best friend is a tortoise. Conversation can be kind of one-sided. I scan through the interview again, trying to take it all in. Bex, I yell. Quick! We're going to be famous. So, wow, things are really getting exciting now. Don't forget to tune in for the next chapter tomorrow. And until then, take care of yourself, stay safe and stay well. And I'll see you soon.